The sun had barely risen over the dunes when the market began to wake. A golden haze rested on the sands, and the air shimmered with the promise of heat. Merchants lifted the covers from their stalls, releasing the scent of saffron, myrrh, and ripe figs into the morning. In the distance, a caravan bell rang, deep and melodic, the kind of sound that carried across the desert like a whisper from another world. Amir walked through the narrow alleys of the market, his robes brushing against baskets of spices and bolts of silk. He had come not for trade but for silence, a place to lose himself among strangers where no one knew his name. Once he had been a scholar, favored by kings and poets alike, but that was before the wars had burned his city and taken his peace. Now he lived quietly, painting, wandering, searching for something he could never name. That morning, as the light fell on the market like molten honey, he saw her. Well, her head bowed slightly, her hands cradling a jar of water. Her scarf, crimson as the setting sun, fluttered in the breeze. It wasn't the color that caught him first, but the way she moved, as though time itself slowed to let her pass. Her presence drew the gaze of every soul, yet she seemed untouched by their eyes. A merchant called her name, Lena, and she turned, her smile soft but distant. Amir froze where he stood. There was something in her eyes, a quiet sorrow that echoed the one he carried. Closer, pretending to examine a row of brass lamps. But as he watched her trade the water jar for a small pouch of coins, he felt a pull deep within him, as if the wind itself whispered, "You have seen her before." When she began to walk away, her scarf slipped from her shoulders, carried by the desert breeze. It spiraled through the air like a red flame. Instinctively, Amir reached out and caught it before it touched the ground. The fabric was light, fragrant with jasmine. He turned and found her standing before him. Her voice was gentle, like water over smooth stone. He bowed slightly. "The wind seems unwilling to let you go," he murmured. She smiled faintly, eyes lowering. "Or perhaps it carries messages from those who are meant to meet." For a moment, neither spoke. The world around them blurred. The noise of merchants, the clang of pottery, the calls of camels, all faded into something distant, unreal. Only her scarf glowed between them, like a ribbon binding two souls that had known each other long before memory. "May I know your name?" he asked at last. "Lena," she replied. "And you?" "Amir." A pause, the kind that feels like destiny taking a breath. Then a shout rose from across the market. A young boy ran toward her, urgency in his voice. "Lena, the caravan is leaving." She turned to Amir one last time. "Perhaps the wind will bring us together again." Before he could answer, she was gone, a red blur vanishing into the sea of tents and travelers. Amir stood in silence, still holding the warmth of her scarf in his hands. The scent of jasmine lingered, and beneath it, something deeper, a promise not yet spoken. He looked to the horizon where the dunes met the sky, and somewhere within him, something that had been asleep for years stirred awake. The desert had many voices. Some came with the wind, low, mournful, ancient. Others came from memory, soft echoes of laughter, of names once spoken beneath the stars. For many nights after their meeting in the market of Mirages, Amir could not sleep. The image of the girl with the red scarf haunted his dreams. The curve of her smile, the way sunlight kissed the edges of her hair, and the quiet sadness that dwelled behind her eyes. He painted her again and again on rough papyrus and stretched canvas, but no color could capture the way her presence felt. Alive yet fleeting, like the shimmer of water over sand. He asked about her in the market, describing her red scarf, her voice, her almond eyes that seemed to hold two worlds at once, but the merchants only shrugged. "Many girls come and go," they said. "Desert winds do not carry names." Still he searched. Each morning he returned to the market, wandering through the narrow aisles of carpets and spices. He began to hear things, whispers of a girl who sang by the river at dusk, a girl who wore red and spoke to no one. The stories pulled him north, toward the oasis of Al-Maida, where palm trees bent like dancers over the water. He arrived one evening as the sun bled into the dunes, painting the world in amber and rose. There, beside the water's edge, he saw her again. Lena, Her scarf shimmered against her shoulders as she sang softly, a tune so fragile it could have been made of glass. The song told of travelers and stars, of lost love and souls who wandered forever, trying to find their mirror. Amir stood at a distance, afraid to break the spell. When she finished, he spoke her name. Lena, startled. But when her eyes found his, recognition bloomed like dawn. You, she breathed. You caught the wind that day. He smiled faintly. And it carried me back to you. For a long moment, they simply looked at each other. The air between them was heavy with what neither dared to say. Then she motioned for him to sit beside her. They talked, of little things at first, of the stars, of the caravans that crossed the dunes, of the colors of the world when the sun set low. But slowly the walls between them fell. She told him that she had come from a small village far beyond the dunes, a place swallowed by war. Her family had perished, her home turned to dust. She had survived by wandering, trading scarves she wove from dyed silk. Amir listened, every word threading itself into his heart. I do not stay long in any place, she said softly. When the wind changes, I follow it. It keeps me from remembering too much. He nodded, understanding all too well. Then perhaps, he said, we are both chasing the same silence. She looked at him, eyes shimmering with something unspoken, and for a moment it felt as though the desert itself held its breath. Then gently she removed her red scarf and placed it in his hands. Keep this, she whispered, until the wind brings me back. Before he could speak, she rose and walked toward the caravan road, her figure glowing against the dying light. And though the night came softly, Amir remained by the water, holding the scarf close, feeling its warmth, a warmth that somehow felt alive. He did not know it yet, but the scarf carried her scent, her spirit, and a secret older than both of them.